There's definitely a lot of buzz, a lot of energy around XRP. You feel it, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's hard to miss.
But, for digital assets, lasting progress, it's not just about the hype. It's really about the foundations.
What's under the hood, so to speak.
Exactly. So today we're going to explore these core elements that one expert points to as, well, really critical if XRP is going to build on its potential and move forward in a positive way.
Yeah, it's about getting a clearer view of the key drivers, the things that could actually propel it.
It's really interesting to look past the sort of daily ups and downs, isn't it?
Definitely. Focusing on those foundational pieces that, support long-term growth, stability, it's crucial for something like XRP.
And this expert lays out, 5 key areas?
Yeah, 5 areas that they see as needing sort of continued strengthening for XRP to really flourish.
Okay, let's get into it then. The first big one seems fundamental. How much is XRP actually, used? Real-world utility.
Right. And this expert highlights Ripple payments, what used to be called on-demand liquidity. They point out it's already being used by quite a few financial institutions for international transfers.
So it's not just theoretical.
No, exactly. That existing utility is a major plus. And if you think bigger picture, the more banks and financial players integrate this kind of tech,
the more demand there is for XRP itself because it's facilitating things.
Precisely. It becomes the tool making those transfers happen efficiently. It's about seeing it work in practice, day to day, within the financial system, not just on paper.
Makes sense. Okay, so adoption is number one. Now, another topic that always comes up with crypto, regulation.
Ah, yes. Regulation, always looming.
The expert really stresses clear rules, especially in the U.S. Why is that so vital here?
Well, it boils down to confidence, investor confidence mainly,
Yeah.
and perceived risk.
How so?
See, without a clear regulatory roadmap in a huge market like the U.S., you get this uncertainty, a regulatory overhang, you could call it. And that tends to scare off the bigger players, institutional investors. They need clarity before they commit serious capital,
Right. They need to know the rules of the game.
Exactly. And the whole legal situation with Ripple has been a perfect example of that uncertainty acting like a brake. It's definitely slowed down wider adoption.
Yeah, that legal cloud has been hanging around for a while. But interestingly, the expert also mentions some potentially positive signs, things like settlement talks, maybe.
Yeah, there's talk of settlement discussions in the legal case, and also efforts mentioned from the Trump administration aiming to provide more operational clarity for crypto businesses stateside.
Okay, so how could those things specifically help XRP in a positive way?
Well, either of those could be a turning point, potentially. Resolving the legal case, that removes a massive obstacle, something that's really dampened how the market sees XRP.
Right, lifts that cloud.
And clear rules generally. That could signal, hey, the U.S. is open for crypto business for innovation.
Yeah.
Which could then encourage more investment, more integration of tech like XRP. It just creates a more welcoming environment.
Okay, so real-world use, clearer rules, that covers 2 key areas. What's next on the list for positive development? Tech advancements.
Yes, the technology itself, the XRP Ledger. Continuous improvement there is seen as absolutely critical.
So Ripple and the developers are still actively building on it.
Oh, definitely. The expert mentions recent upgrades like introducing a native stablecoin, RLUSD.
A stablecoin tied to the dollar?
Exactly, adds stability. And also automated market maker functionality, AMM. Plus, work is ongoing to implement staking as well.
AMM. What does that allow?
It basically enables decentralized trading directly on the ledger, so you're less reliant on traditional exchanges. The idea behind all these upgrades is to make the XRP Ledger more versatile, more efficient, broadening its use cases beyond just fast payments, maybe into things like DeFi, decentralized finance. It's about expanding its toolkit.
So it's becoming more than just a quick way to send money across borders. These upgrades are aiming for broader appeal. That sounds positive.
Yeah, it shows evolution.
Okay, shifting gears a little. Market sentiment. And Bitcoin's influence, that comes up too, right? We see that everywhere in crypto.
Absolutely. You can't really ignore it. Historically, Bitcoin has often been like the tide. When it rises, it tends to lift other boats, XRP included.
Yeah, a big Bitcoin rally often brings optimism across the board.
Exactly. It creates a positive mood music for the whole market. The expert notes this historical pattern.
But is the hope that XRP eventually breaks away from that?
Well, yeah. There's certainly hope that over time, XRP could establish more of its own independent price action based on its own fundamentals, its utility, the tech we just talked about.
So less dependent on Bitcoin's swings.
Right. Think of it like Bitcoin might set the weather, But the goal is for XRP to build a strong enough foundation, its own ecosystem, so its success isn't solely tied to whatever Bitcoin's doing that day.
That makes sense. Building intrinsic value. Okay, that brings us to the last key area highlighted, supply dynamics. Scarcity, how does that factor in positively?
This is about how XRP was initially set up. The creators made a fixed total supply, 100 billion tokens.
Okay.
A big chunk of that is held in escrow, like a programmed lockup, releasing tokens on a schedule.
To control the release?
Yeah, the idea was to create a predictable supply, avoid flooding the market. And while Ripple unlocks some tokens monthly, apparently most of that usually goes back into escrow.
Interesting.
Plus, there's a built-in mechanism where a tiny fraction of XRP is burned, permanently destroyed with every single transaction on the ledger.
So the total supply actually decreases over time.
Slowly, yes.
Yeah.
It's a deflationary aspect. The thinking is this controlled release from escrow combined with a transaction burn could increase scarcity over the long run.
And basic economics suggests scarcity can drive demand, potentially price.
That's the theory, yes.
Well.
A potential positive driver over time.
Okay, so let's recap quickly. This expert's view is that a positive future for XRP hinges on these 5 interconnected things working together. First, more real-world adoption, banks using it. Second, getting that regulatory clarity, especially in the US.
Crucial.
Third, ongoing tech innovation, making the ledger more capable.
Yep, expanding utility.
Fourth, benefiting from overall positive market sentiment while hopefully becoming more independent of Bitcoin eventually.
Right.
And fifth, the supply dynamics, the controlled release, and the burn mechanism potentially leading to scarcity.
Exactly. It paints a picture where sustained progress isn't about just one thing, but about these different fundamental pillars reinforcing each other.
It really feels like short-term excitement is one thing, but that enduring positive development needs these foundations to be solid and working in sync.
Precisely put. Each pillar plays a part in building, a robust case for the asset's potential future growth.
So this gives you, the listener, a really valuable framework. When you look at these 5 areas, adoption, regulation, tech, market mood, and supply, which one stands out to you? Which feels most critical, or the one you'll be watching most closely as you think about this digital asset's future?
It definitely highlights there's a lot more to consider than just the daily chart movements.
Food for thought.